So we have somebody backed by popular demand.
Oh yeah, we have a show for you.
We got so many comments, you know, that we want him. We want to see him.
This guy's a master of disaster.
Yeah,
is that true? There's a lot of comments saying like we need this
a lot of negative comments about it.
It seems like, you know, he's a man of the hour.
But
Let's just say that, right?
But you know what?
To put it mildly.
I love this guy because he has some crazy opinions and he knows how to back it up. And this guy's quite a character. We got Douglas Kim in the house. Producer, entrepreneur, poker player, gambler. What are you?
Communist.
Communist. There you go. The biggest one. The communist.
How about influencer? Would you put influencer?
Oh God. You're so lucky you're living in this day and age.
I guess like technically I'm trying to influence the population to be more communist, but I wouldn't call myself influencer in the the popular traditional sense.
I will never understand your ideology.
Why is that? What do you mean? Like ideology is Marxism, Leninism.
That's what I'm saying. I'll never understand it.
Is it true that there's some kind of similarities? So I heard about it and I read up on it. Similarities between Christianity and communism. Somebody kind of wrote an article about it.
It's not uncommon if you look at the Book of Acts.
Yeah, like Kim Jong-un is God, right?
No, but if you look at the Book of Acts, you see that the church is organized in kind of like a communist sort of way, where they say sell all of your possessions and you're supposed to kind of like collectively survive as the church, and that's kind of like how I think is it Luke who wrote Acts? Somebody who wrote Acts was laying out this is the way the church should be. Mm-hmm. And like 1 Timothy 3:10, I believe, says something like the love of money is the root of all evil. And
sounds like a John Lennon song. What you're saying right now? Imagine.
Yeah, I mean that
Imagine
song
like,
itself
I think
it's a communist anthem. Huh?
Yeah.
No, Imagine,
or it's communist inspired.
Is it? Yeah, but Imagine is kind of more like a nihilism. It's kind of like nothing matters in this world. I mean, that's how I took it.
Think so? I thought it was more like
imagine that there's no heaven
like
and
idealism, like.
So like Imagine would be like the communist anthem, and 50 Cent's In the Club would be like the capitalist anthem. Dun, dun.
Kinda. I mean, the whole 90s.
No, I thought In the Club is more of a birthday song. Oh. No, but anyway.
The whole 90s to early 2000s
capitalist birthday
is definitely like a black capitalism kind of like trend, especially, the what was it, Bad Boys in New York City. I feel like they're all about like cash, money, hoes, that kind of like.
No, I agree with you on one thing. Like shows like Sex and the City or like Instagram
or Kardashian stuff.
The Kardashian thing, it really put a dent, and I think in society we've become such a spending society that we can't stop spending money unless they raise interest rates so high, right? And we've gotten addicted to shopping. Everything is about commerce. Everything's about sales, and everyone uses sales to make money, whether it kills you or not.
I think like all-time personal debt is at an all-time high
in Korea as well.
In Korea and America, I think. I'm looking at all the economic metrics. And national debt and everything, and I'm just kind of like, this is not going to go well. Like something bad is going to happen.
So I agree with you, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not giving up. I'll tell you that.
I mean,
is he super selfish, Doug? Is he a very selfish dude to say that?
I would say
I'm going to make as much as I can.
As a communist, how would you view this
he would shoot me.
Behavior?
I would say, I would actually say his behavior is rational in the current paradigm that we exist in. If we are to live in capitalism right now, and we're seeing what we're seeing right now, I would say, hoard everything you can, because like something is going to happen. You need to batten the hatches.
So you're not communist in this day and age right now?
No, I am. But I'm just saying that like, we're probably not going to get communism in America anytime soon. So if that's the case, you need to prepare first for your own kind of safety and your own livelihood.
So you're a realist.
Yes, but I'm also like saying that communism is the only way humanity prevents itself from destroying itself.
If everyone's communist, basically, but
if the world is communist,
are you a prepper too?
Prepper?
Do you prep? Like prep for the end of the world, like
no,
canned foods,
not
6
anything.
months of water.
No, I'm not like that. But
like 20,000 rounds of ammunition, things like
emergency food. You're talking about the Patriots.
Yeah,
that kind of.
No,
a lot of right wingers.
Food's not even important to me. all I need are like bullets. You know what I mean? It's just like I just need ammo.
Because as long as you get bullets, you can get food from other people with those bullets.
Because communists.
That's how it's gonna happen, though. I mean, humans are a disgusting breed. I really think so. We're gonna be selfish, you know. I'm gonna try to get mine for my kids, while they're gonna try to take for their kids. You know.
Yeah.
It's just how it's gonna become.
Yeah, you believe in the Second Amendment, right?
Yes. In the manner that James Madison intended. Not really for. I mean, like, yes, obviously for self-defense. Given that other people have guns, like in the scenario that other people have guns, yes, I want my own.
That
gun.
is the scenario, bro.
But then, in addition. You know, the Second Amendment was also written to give citizens the option to revolt against the government that was tyrannical. I mean, that was the whole point of the American Revolution in 1776.
Do you think we reached that point?
As a communist, I'm like, yes, but it's hard to coordinate a militia against the current like military, like modern military.
So were you
technology.
disappointed for Jan 6 that Trump should have took over the Capitol? They should have gone more hardcore and really take over.
I'm so scared of what we're saying right now.
Let's go there, man. We're talking with a communist, so
I think
we gotta
Jan
go there.
6 was just, it was just like it was just stupid. To be honest,
they shouldn't have done it in the beginning. What do you think? I mean, you think?
Well,
Trump was
I
too
think
weak?
there should have been. I mean, they can protest, right? They can protest or whatever. But yeah, like going into the Capitol building.
Yeah,
that was
but
a
the
little
doors
much.
were kind of opened. You know, I mean, it just kind of opened magically.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, there definitely
shaman.
is like possibility for like false flag stuff going on.
So
but,
you do believe that there could have been, or there.
I mean,
was?
I just haven't looked into Jan 6 as in depth to really comment on that.
Are you an anti-America person? Do you consider yourself anti-America?
I consider myself an anti-government, American government person.
Establishment government, right?
Yeah.
So you like the outsiders?
I'm always against the ruling class. I'm never against the masses. I think the masses.
But you are for the ruling class of Xi Jinping, though, right?
I am for the Communist Party of China. Yes.
Okay. But against you would say the establishment of American government,
yes.
right? So you support an anti-establishment guy, personality?
Yeah. So
Donald Trump.
I would. I mean, like, I'm not like a full-on supporter. I don't support all of his policies. But if it were Biden and Trump, I would go Trump.
See, I think you just won about 10 fans on the show right now.
But I think I like Trump, not for the reasons the people watching this like Trump for.
What are your reasons, specific reasons why you like Trump over
one of the
some other
biggest reasons
establishments?
is that he was the first president to actually visit the DPRK.
That you give him a lot of credit for.
I give him a lot of credit for that. He actually met with Kim Jong-un and kind of like legitimized the regime.
So you believe that he legitimized that action, legitimized the
yeah,
regime.
it's just kind of like giving credence to that. Oh, this guy isn't this crazy dictator who's going to assassinate me after all, right? Like just being able to go there and like just have a normal conversation. I feel like that goes a long way, especially in the current environment of like how North Korea is always demonized. Like, oh, like why would he do that? That's so crazy. I think just the simple fact of him going there really like boosted the DPRK's kind of like credibility.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Dennis Rodman visiting North Korea did anything to kind of help that, or do you think
I think it did. I think that's.
You think he opened the gates?
I don't know if he opened the gate for Trump, but I think any sort of like excursion into North Korea by anyone in America is probably, in my mind, a positive kind of like thing for North Korea.
You know, like everyone's meeting Kim Jong-un now. Now it's like, Vladimir Putin.
So
they want to meet up
talk
together.
About that,
so that's happening
so you
later
think that's
this
a
month,
plus,
right?
Obviously, right?
They're meeting in Vladivostok.
Vladivostok.
Okay.
Vladivostok.
I think a lot of Koreans live there too, right? In
I think
Vladivostok.
so.
A decent amount. I think during the
I've been
Cold
there before,
War,
by the way.
Oh, how is it?
How is it?
It was great, yeah, but
That's it?
But I don't think it was as beautiful like Moscow or
Is it cold?
St. Petersburg. I mean, Russia is. I would say this. Russia is the most beautiful country I've ever visited. It's really beautiful.
Oh, you've went to Moscow?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think I might go next year to Moscow.
Are you? Yeah, it's one of the most
Gonna
beautiful
try to
countries.
So Russia's not. There's no like travel restrictions or anything. You just go from wherever
Back then,
you
you
want.
know, I went there in the early 2000s.
warnings,
Yeah.
but you can still go to Russia.
Oh, still, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I went there in the early 2000s, so I felt like I took a time machine and went back to like 17th century and 18th century. And I think the reason why is because all the architecture there, they didn't renovate. You know, it's all those old buildings still there. You know, and to see all those statues, it was just such an amazing
Historical, huh?
Yeah, it really takes you there. Yeah, and I never felt anything like it.
Did you ever go? Did you go to the Lenin Mausoleum?
I think I went there too. Yeah, I mean it was all beautiful. You know, I mean Russia is one of the most beautiful country. You know, I mean.
So back to that question. What do you think about this meeting between the two communist powers?
Well, first, Russia it's Russian Federation now. It's not the Soviet Union.
Does Putin consider himself a communist, full blown communist?
No, I mean like at least publicly. He has never said anything to the effect that I am trying to recreate the Soviet Union. I think. You know, obviously he was part of the KGB and all of that. It's hard to pin down what his actual kind of like gist is. But the fact of the matter is he has improved the lives of Russians since he's been in office. You know, he has improved the Russian economy. And really just, I think a lot of the Americans who see him as this tyrant or this like dictator is like, I think the Russians in Russia, a lot of them don't agree with that assessment because he's visibly improved their lives. And so it's hard to say if he's a closet or like a secret covert communist. I don't think he would want to say anything like that, even if he was out loud anytime soon. But, you know, he is also obviously making deals with people that are not aligned with American
like China.
Yeah, global interests like China, Iran, and North Korea, like we said. And the media outlets obviously are saying that, oh, they're meeting because North Korea is going to deliver munitions and blah, blah, blah. But I think, you know, with the recent stuff with BRICS and all that, I think it's also, it could be about that. But I think there's also probably like a long-term planning strategy of like, how do we want to align ourselves in this coming kind of like multipolarity sort of environment. That might be coming around.
That guy who staged a coup against Putin.
Oh, Prigozhin, right?
His airplane crash.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? It's just like, wow, it's just an innocent crash.
I
know that's hard,
I haven't looked into it too
but
much.
Come on, dude. That's like
just tell your honest feeling. Come on.
But yeah, so
that's pretty gangster, I thought.
I would say it wouldn't have been strategic if he actually did order the strike, because like it would be done in such a way that would make him look bad to the public, and so I don't think that he actually did it. Obviously, it's hard to tell because there's so much kind of like information out there.
It's like Epstein's death, you know.
I think it could have been
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. Like to me, it's more likely that it was a CIA operation.
You think like the pipeline, right?
Yeah, I think Douglas, when we talk with him,
we've opened the whole can of worms
I think
now.
It seems like a lot of the antagonists, right, happens to be CIA, right?
Yeah.
Or is FBI on that list?
Yeah. I mean the FBI, but it's more CIA these days. I would say. During the Cold War, there was definitely a lot of FBI kind of activity, especially around Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and just like domestic sort of insurrection and anti-American activities.
So you support any candidates who want to abolish CIA? Because there are some candidates.
I will definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think Cornel West, right? He was on that list of wanting to abolish the CIA. Yeah.
And I think aren't there some Republicans who wants to abolish the CIA and FBI, the intelligence agencies?
Yeah, I think.
Not sure.
I think it was Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he kind of said that. You don't like him?
Yeah.
Why?
I think he's just like a tech douche. You know, one of those.
Is it because of his attitude, arrogant?
He's just so smarmy.
I understand what you're saying. I kind of get what you're saying.
Remember that RNC like debate with all the candidates.
Yes.
I was like, this guy knows that Trump is going to be the probable nominee. He's auditioning for the VP.
That's
pick.
what I felt too.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I was seeing it. It was just like so obvious because he was just like, pulling for Trump while everyone else was trying to bash him.
And actually, Trump, during an interview with Glenn Beck, he did say that he would consider him as his running mate.
Yeah, exactly.
So
because he knows like flattery sometimes works with Trump. I
think Trump loves flattery.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you, Doug? Are you against flattery too? Are you that much of an outsider?
I actually am. Like personally, I find people who flatter me too much, I kind of like
suspicious.
Yeah, I get suspicious
because
personally.
Because in your life, whoever flattered you always got something back, or
there was a reason.
It just feels like there's an agenda, and so I try to keep those kinds of people at arm's length. Or just like make a mental note.
원이사님, 너무나 잘 보고 있습니다. 최고 원이사님. They try to get something from you.
Yeah, I'm always trying to like figure out what's their end game, what's their goal here.
Okay,
money.
Yeah, I mean
connections.
Actually, like when I won the World Series or whatever, that was a big concern of mine. Right. I think that's probably like the beginning of like when that sort of thing like
you're a star. You become a star.
Yeah, I mean, like when you're a millionaire at 22, you're like
and a millionaire at 22.
I wasn't really a star, but I was like an E-list celebrity.
You were a capitalist back then, right? A happy capitalist.
I don't know if I was a happy capitalist.
Would you have given that up for the government?
Hell no.
Doesn't that kind of goes against all your belief and
no, because I don't believe that the government taxation is. I don't think that's communism. That's just liberal nonsense.
Okay, all right.
And the other thing is that I don't know if you know this, but income tax in the United States started to finance the Civil War, and so from that point, income tax and the mass of the taxes has been really to finance the U.S. military. And it really wasn't until like the New Deal. During Roosevelt's era, that they started to make entitlement stuff like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and stuff like that, tacking that on. But really, it is like to finance the U.S. military.
I think I agree with you on that part because in Korea there isn't this much income tax.
You've always compared the
American
two nations.
Income tax is like insane.
Wait,
dude.
what is it like in Korea?
It's like maybe somewhere in the vicinity of like 10 to 15% from what I remember, from what I was earning.
And guess who supplies the military for Korea?
Well, but
America,
there
right?
but there isn't. Well, I mean, Korea has its own military, but they don't pay the soldiers. So I mean, they were very little.
Right.
So it's kind of like forced labor in a way. It's like
Korea has Russian weapons too. You know that, right?
South Korea or North
South Korea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I used to be trained by one.
AK-47?
No.
Yeah, in the
T-80 tank.
I know
and
that.
There's also BMP-3. That is all made by
Soviets
Russia.
Actually, I think in the mid '80s, normalized relations with South Korea.
Yeah.
So they did also supply them with weapons back then too.
Notew, he lent a lot it money to Soviet Union.
I'm assuming
they got those back.
Most
in
of
return,
Korean equipment is
weapons.
American made, right?
Most it is, because I would actually know because when I was around the time of private first class.
What year was that?
It was like 99. They said 98, 99. Yeah, they said, hey, we can't train with this anymore. That's not American, so it goes back to what you say. Yeah. So
I mean, they're
there,
probably
but we cannot use it because
they're also
America
putting
doesn't
like little chips in there, trying to track what you're doing.
But I would say the technology was kind of way ahead of its time. I heard that it's actually better. They had better
Soviet
quality.
technology?
Yeah,
The Russian stuff, or
yeah.
the Russian
stuff?
Yeah, the Russian tanks, like the T-80s. My son tells me that they were really famous, like really tough. And stuff.
even during the Cold War, even in the Korean War, for example, the reason why the UN or America was so willing to intervene, even though like the Soviets had, the Soviets were kind of like right there in their backyard, was that they thought their nuclear advantage would, prevent the Soviets from entering, and that they would be able to just steamroll the Koreans or whatever, like just like with nukes if they needed it. But then soon after, I think in 51, Soviets started to supply the North Korean army with and the PLA with their planes. And they found that they modified these Rolls-Royce engines during World War II, and that the Soviet planes were more advanced than anything the Americans ever had. And the main delivery device for those nukes back then were B-52 bombers. And they were like, oh, if we try to nuke them, they're going to like just fly in and just destroy these, out of the water. We've lost our nuclear advantage. So that's kind of like what prolonged the war, because they didn't have like the trump card.
Let me ask you. I mean, let's get back to the dialogue. Although it's just dialogue, I think this is kind of like forming like a new alliances. When you see how the game is played, you got Russia. They've always been allies, Russia, North Korea, as well as China, right? But now it's like becoming more and more evident. Do you think that this is kind of a precedent to like a separation that may even look like we're going into we're already kind of in a Cold War, but could
China.
this be an actual like world war?
I mean, I think the Biden administration is trying to push for that.
Yeah.
A world war.
Yeah. That's why I'm just like, if it was down to Biden and Trump, like, Trump is just kind of like, he wants everyone to like him. That's what I feel like Trump is trying to do. But like, I think Biden really, and the establishment really wants to push like more and more aggression. They just sent, I think, $300 million to Taiwan for U.S. military assistance or something.
And then it was some kind of it was like a funding that's originally reserved for sovereign nations, which kind of makes you tilt your head and go, what?
Yeah, because as you know, Taiwan is not a sovereign nation.
Well, it's not supposed to be recognized as a sovereign nation.
I mean, it's not according to America.
Even U.S. State
stance.
Department does not recognize it as a sovereign nation.
Yeah, and they're making a move that is largely reserved for sovereign nations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they just donated another $1 billion last week to Ukraine. So.
All right. Okay. So you think this is a collision course? You didn't you support Biden?
No, because I never supported Biden in my life.
Back in 2020?
No.
You supported Trump then rather than Biden?
I supported no one. I voted
no, because
for the Green Party candidate.
I would think that way because you know how Trump talked about China. You know about his rhetoric about tariffs. Of course, it was more of an economic war.
But I didn't trust Biden
it wasn't
either.
like a military situation.
You got to stop thinking in political binaries. It's not either Democrat or Republican.
But so when he was talking about these tariffs, he was gonna lay a lot of tariffs on China. That didn't offend you?
No, because
why is that?
I thought in the grand scheme of things, I thought the Democratic Party was just more corrupt and more.
Okay.
Yeah. With Trump, I was just like, at the 2020, I wasn't a fan of Trump either, but I was definitely not a fan of Biden. Okay. I think I just voted for the Green Party because out of like just protest.
Let's talk about who you are a fan of. How about we talk about 윤석열 대통령? I kind of think I kind of feel a lot of love for him. From
what do you think of his the first lady?
Well, I don't know much about his first lady. What's going on with her?
She's pretty.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess sure.
She gets attention. That's why it seems like she gets bashed. Also, I think if she was less pretty, she might get like half the bashing.
I agree with that.
And I think like people are jealous that she's.
I think she's easy to bash. Dude,
so what is your impression about what Koreans think in Korea versus what Korean Americans think in LA?
I'm so scared to speak out loud about anything in Korea because everything is wrong. If you say something, it's gonna piss off one person or the other.
What happens to you if you say something in Korea and like
you get like blacklisted, man? Like
about you're talking
canceled.
about politics?
Yeah.
Like for instance, I hate Moon Jae-in or I hate Yoon Suk-yeol. What kind of reaction would you get? So you would divide probably half, right?
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
But like the louder, the left is always usually louder, and the left opinion is usually seen more. I guess.
Wait, so then Yoon Suk-yeol must be really unpopular then.
I mean, when you look at like regular media, like one of like the regular media over in Korea, you'll see that a lot because like YTN, they're kind of known as like the news, like the CNN of Korea.
Yeah.
And
MBC too, right?
Yeah, MBC too. KBS is like wherever the chunk one is usually, but more towards the government.
That way.
And there's a lot less like kind of like right or central right types of what do you call it? Broadcast stations, and those happens to be like the Chongpyons, like the Chosun, TV Chosun, and those.
They
things.
are kind of pro Yoon Suk-yeol, right?
Yeah. But they wave back and forth every now and then.
No, but actually, it was Chongpyeon JTBC who brought down Park Geun-hye, who
Yeah,
was a
exactly.
right-winger.
They were supposed to be right.
back
I
and
think
forth,
it's
you know.
well. That's probably just because the mounting evidence was just
No,
overwhelming.
the
against
Son
her at the
Seok-hee.
time.
Son Seok-hee. He's known as a very like middle, like kind of left, more leftist type.
I don't think
reporter.
anybody would consider Son Seok-hee middle.
All right, fine.
That
I'm
is-
sorry. I'm sorry. I just gave him the element of the left. Okay.
But I guess
Left.
what do you think the impression is right now in Korea about Yoon Suk-yeol?
Isn't it half and half?
It's
still?
half and half.
I think
like,
it's half and
I
half.
like him.
In Korea, it's
Why do you like him?
He's sexy.
Okay.
he has always, whenever I said, about Kim Gun-hee, he's like, I think Yoon Suk-yeol looks better than Kim Gun-hee being pretty, right?
Oh my God, you guys are such,
Okay, all right, okay, so let's talk about this.
you guys are such simps.
Let's talk about,
Jesus.
that was young, okay? The Korean
I
military.
never agreed to this. He just put words in
He
my
looked
mouth.
like a little toad.
Who?
Yoon Suk-yeol.
Why are you judging a man by its cover, dude?
Hey, did you
You just judge his wife by his cover.
Did you
by her
see
cover.
Did you see Yoon Suk-yeol go to White House and sing American Pie?
Oh my God!
I knew that you would
was
check it out.
Such
I know that you would check it
cuckery. He is such a
He's a fan of Yoon
he.
Suk-yeol. That's
He
weird.
just sucks.
Why
Biden's all the time.
why don't you like him? Why don't you like him?
Oh my God! It's just because he's such an obvious simp for Biden. Did you see that picture where it was like the Prime Minister of Japan and him and Biden? It just looked like he was like they were dogs on his leash, just walking.
Isn't that?
But he got a state visit though,
Yeah, he did.
right? He got a state visit.
Yeah, but
dude.
you see those kind of like meetings with world leaders. And I think there was this time when like Yoon Suk-yeol was trying to like shake someone's hand and then they were being ignored or something. Like Biden totally ignored him or something. And it's just like such servility. It's just so pathetic.
But don't you think he has more influence, like in the world stage, than Moon Jae-in, for example?
There was a lot of, obviously we're in a pandemic for a lot of his career, or I guess like his term.
I feel a lot of soft spot for him.
I don't have a soft spot for Moon Jae. I think the entire ROK government is just a
Corrupt.
It's just a puppet government of the United States.
And whenever you say
You've
that, I
spoken
feel
just like Kim Jong-un.
So even if it wasn't Biden, if it was an outsider figure, whoever the president of the United States would be, a South Korean president would probably, according to your words, suck up to them, right?
Yes.
And you don't like that situation of whoever it is,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's
I
that's
think
how
that
decipher it.
because like when you think about it, fundamentally, what makes a country sovereign, right? What makes it sovereign? It has to have control of its politics. It has to have control of its economy. It has to have control of its military. And who controls that? Well, the politics are really, as you see that Yoon Suk-yeol is just sucking up to Biden, right? So, it's obvious that America controls that. The military is directly controlled by the U.S. military. And the economy, ever since 1997 during the IMF crisis, Western capitalists control 50% of all the corporations. And the top 10, I believe, corporations in Korea have 80% of the GDP.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of
he read up on that. You're right. You're exactly right.
So it's
about
just
that.
who controls South Korea? It's America.
You consider that IMF situation a tragic thing
it's
to
a lot of
happen
George
to Korea,
Soros
right?
kind of money
That George
manipulation.
Soros happened
Okay,
there
let me
too,
ask
right?
you.
Yeah.
Because South Korea is a very unique country because it's on a peninsula. It's locked by landlocked to the north, and it's locked by water. And it needs partners. So there's not a lot of natural resources that you could pull out of South Korea. So it needs a lot of trade partners. So Japan has always been a trade partner. America has always been a very important and fundamental trade partner. And when you look at Beijing has for some time, especially during the Park Geun-hye administration and before, a significant trade partner as well. But with kind of being stuck in the middle between China and also Japan, the superpowers is sandwiched in between. Kind of in Korea, they call
Do you
it.
think Japan is a superpower?
No, I'm sorry. America and China, when you look at them and sandwiched in between. So economically, kind of has to be friends with both or be tight with both, right? Do you think it's better to focus on China? I'm pretty sure you'll be saying that, but why? But at the same time, when you see China wield some of its powers on Korea, right now, everything's locked out. They're not really doing a lot of things with Korean celebrities or American celebrities right now. What do you think is better for Korea to lean against or to work with as a superpower?
Obviously, it's going to be China.
Yeah. And tell me why. I want to know the reason why.
It's difficult. They're in a tough spot because, their economy, like I said before, those 10 companies, they control the South Korean economy. And, you know, wherever Samsung goes, that's where Korea goes these days.
Yes.
And, you know, everything is predicated on those industries, you know, Kia, Hyundai, Samsung, whatever. And so, like you said, they have to do this balancing act because, you know, they are kind of just very deep in the hole with America and Western investment. But also, yeah, a huge market is in China too. And so, like, they have to think about how they're going to balance that. I think Yoon Suk-yeol is doing a terrible job at that because he's obviously leaning towards America harder and harder and harder, especially with his like kind of like what is it like stuff with Japan recently.
Sure.
Even that bus thing we were talking about earlier.
We didn't. We were talking about
Let's
it
get to
before
that too.
before the show, but continue your.
But all of it is
thoughts,
just kind
please.
of like, you know, as America is deepening this Cold War and this trade war with China, you know, I guess what Yoon Suk-yeol and maybe the South Korean government is thinking like, oh, we need to hitch our wagon with who we think is going to be the winning side or whatever. And I think that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And so China's like, well, you know, if you're going to play along with, you know, Japan and like if you're going to cuck yourself like that, like fuck you. We're going to we're going to do our own thing.
Okay, all right. And China's fighting back. Did you know that? China is now fighting back, and Apple is getting hurt.
Oh, yeah.
America's biggest company. You know, Apple shares fall after reports that China banned iPhone use by government employees.
Yeah.
And it's going to hit like 10 million, you know, users. That's what I heard.
No more
and
TikTok.
the stock price has been going down since.
Really?
Yeah, Apple stocks has been.
Because like
I was gonna
took
buy
a
a
serious
new
hit.
iPhone.
On Thursday alone, 3%.
Because I think the Chinese market now is bigger than the American market for iPhones.
I mean, just like population-wise, I mean,
Yeah, they have
it's
1.4
a huge
billion
market,
people.
right?
Yeah.
Is it because Tim Cook, who's CEO of Apple, he chose India over China? He's moving a lot
There's
of
a lot of
manufacturing
reasons,
factories over there.
in my mind. Obviously, there's the Huawei situation that's going on.
Yeah.
They just came out with a new phone that has 5G technology that they were banned from using from, you know, American.
In America, it's
tried to
banned,
like ban
yeah.
them from getting. In America, it's banned. The phone itself is not banned. It's hard to get, but it's not banned. But they banned American companies from working with Huawei.
Which pretty much makes it a ban.
Right.
I
So
would
then
think.
what happened is Huawei apparently like they were able to manufacture chips on their own that like had like these high technology in it. And now America is mad, be like, how did you make that technology? We were supposed to ban you from making that. And so right after that, like you see all this demand for these phones because like these phones apparently I haven't looked at like the specs or anything like that, but it's like a flagship phone that now is comparable to iPhone, and some reviewers in China even think it's better. There were lines out the door.
I know, I was about to
at
say that.
Huawei.
The lines look super
In
long.
America?
No, in China.
in China.
Yeah, in China.
And while-
in America, you can't buy it. You
and
know.
the iPhone 15.
I bet Doug wants to buy a Huawei phone, but he can't.
Yeah,
It might explode in your
I have to
face,
go to
dude.
China to get one. But yeah, and the other thing is, I think WikiLeaks 6 years ago in 2017, they revealed that the FBI and the CIA, we're back to CIA again, but they had like some sort of backdoor in the Cisco chips in Apple iPhones, and they could surveil anyone with that was using these
WikiLeaks.
phones.
Are you talking
So-
about Vault 7?
I mean, but
Was
don't
it?
you think Chinese phones are able to do the same?
Right, but
mean-
if you're the CPC, do you want an iPhone that it's going to
Well, of
be
course
direct
not.
linked to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
CIA, or do you want your Huawei phone?
Hey, but doesn't Samsung TV also do that? That was in the WikiLeaks too.
Maybe.
You know,
I
Samsung,
don't know.
Samsung
They're-
TV,
yeah.
they can spy pretty much everybody. You know, that was on WikiLeaks.
Right. So I'm sure they're going to get rid of their Samsung TVs too, but that's not going to be the news. The news is going to be the iPhone, right?
Samsung knows what
And
you did
the
last
third
night.
thing is that I think recently all U.S. government phones are banned from having TikTok on it. So it might be kind of like a tit for
You're
tat.
saying that
sort of
phones
like,
can't download TikTok anymore?
if you're a government
If you're
official,
government
you're not
official.
allowed to have
Official.
TikTok.
Oh,
on
Did you
your
get
phone.
TikTok yet?
No, I never use. No, I
Do you have
didn't.
TikTok?
I bet
yeah, I
he
do.
does.
But it's just kind of like a little bit of trade war slash.
It's like tit for tat, right?
Yeah,
The
a little-
Facebook
yeah,
situation
exactly.
with the TikTok, you know, Instagram, and then now it's this
But
iPhone
it could also be
situation.
they want to boost kind of like the credibility of Huawei now. Like they want their
Okay.
citizens to be like, oh yeah, like Huawei phone is better than iPhone or whatever, and they want their, you know, it's better to have that money remain in your economy, right? In general, just like
like a nationalist perspective, right?
Yeah, and I think there has been definitely a growing sentiment of pro-China in China. I don't know if you know.
They don't listen to K-pop anymore. They listen to China pop.
Not China pop, but
they
2
copy
years
all the
ago,
K-pop anyways.
You know, there's these movies called like Wolf Warrior, and then there was a movie about the Korean War 2 years ago. That was their most popular. I think it had the most sales all time in China.
So they're becoming more like nationalists.
Yeah, they're more
right
like because that was like directly a war where they fought against America, right? I think during the 2000s to 2010s. I think like China was a lot of Chinese people were pro-America because they're like, oh, there's cool technology, like cool stuff. But I think now most Chinese citizens see the like kind of like just the outright propaganda against it that's happening in the West, and they're kind of like being more insular as a result.
You know what? A lot of Koreans in Korea feel that way about America too.
Wait,
and
why is
that
that?
sentiment is growing.
Wait, in like negative?
Yeah.
Oh, why is that?
Yeah, because there's also, there's half right now. The government the incumbent government is a conservative one. Now you're hearing a lot of conservative voices, but at the same time, there's also the other half, which is basically a very liberal or progressive one, and many progressive based people that are progressive, they tend to be more
pro-America,
pro-Korea, and also anti-America.
You're talking about conservative people?
No,
liberal
the liberal
yeah,
and progressives.
liberal ones, yeah.
But when you see the conservative people, they're pro-America. So am I. I'm conservative as well. But I understand, a little bit of both. There's a good argument, but it's also an information, sort of propaganda in a way too.
Yeah.
Of what's going back and forth.
Yeah, but there are liberals who love America too, and conservative in Korea.
What are the liberals who do not like America? What do they want? What's their agenda?
It's about like America trying to control everything and then putting, bases here. For example, like a THAAD, the THAAD missile system, right, or the radar. That was like a big controversy. Many of the people were thinking that it was the radar was bad for you and that America didn't care. They just wanted a strong radar in there to be able to surveil China, and China.
There's a lot of
North Korea was saying
sentiment
that.
Also in Okinawa.
So things like that, and also
on.
America kind of trying to police the world in a way.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff has kind of gotten on the nerves. But at the same time, China does the same thing too. In China, for example, laying claims to certain, underwater plots of land or something. For example, the South China Sea, they have a dispute with the Philippines. They have a little dispute with South Korea as well when it comes to maritime territory. There's like little flexes here and there by China too. So it's just a regional thing.
So who do you think is going to win throughout this battle? Now tit for tat, China against iPhone and all that for an American brand.
I mean, I don't know.
World War III. He says World War III.
There's going to be a winner if there's World War III.
We're just going to be like shooting rockets at each other.
Can't the world all get along?
No.
Do you don't want like that? You don't want the world getting along? You think this is a good thing?
As long as there's profit motive, as long as there's corporations who are greedy, no, there's not going to be getting along because people are going to be self-interested and they're going to want to extract the most exploitation as possible. And that's why I'm a proponent for socialism, because I think that not only does it prevent the profit motive, but it is a more effective and efficient mode of production that really kind of like solves a lot of problems as China has in the past 40 years.
What are your thoughts about Canada? I've been hearing a lot of like very negative things about what's going on in Canada economically.
I don't know too
you
much
mean the
about
lockdown?
Canada, but
I just in a lot of different ways they're saying Canada is really going down. I mean, because of many of the socialist policies that it has.
I wouldn't say that that's like social. I think it's just.
You think socialist is a negative word?
No, it has a
negative
I'm not saying
connotation?
socialist is a negative word. I'm just saying that unless it's like actually modeled on a Marxist-Leninist kind of like organization, it's not really socialist.
It's like baby step socialist.
Yeah, it's kind of like, how would I say this? It's like either like you're one way or the other. I don't think it's like you can be in between. Because then like I would say that there will always be corporations and politicians who you can pay off to do what you want in the end with the capitalist society. And so even if they have quote unquote socialist policies, there's a lot of room for bad faith negotiations for those policies. And that's what happens, what you're saying, that's what is deteriorating that society, because it's like, oh, like for example, I think it was like on the Joe Rogan podcast where they talked about homelessness, right? In a lot of these cities, in a lot of American cities, and how they have like $1 billion budgets for like, 50,000 homeless people or whatever. And it's just kind of like, wait, how come they're not housed? Like that seems like a lot of money for all these homeless people. Like, how come we not do it?
Where is it all wasted?
Well, in the Joe Rogan podcast, they're saying it's turned into kind of like industrial complex where like these, volunteers and these, organizers are really just like taking all that money for themselves. It's like the same thing as like BLM or all these other things that are progressive.
They buy their own mansions and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's just, that's what I'm saying.
There's a few things that we agree on.
With the profit motive still in that equation, I don't think any of those socialist policies are actually socialist policies. They're just LARPing as socialist policies. You really need a centralized government like China to really enforce and kind of like regulate those
power
things.
overwhelming for the government.
Yeah. And you see the results, right? Like in the past 40 years, you had 800 million people in China lifted out of poverty, right? And so when people are like, oh, China is so authoritarian, so like whatever, like it's terrible to its own citizens. When you talk to the average Chinese citizen in China, you're like, wait, all I've seen year after year after year in my entire life is improvement, like in life quality. Why would I hate my government when they're improving my life?
That's a good point in a way, in China's perspective.
Yeah,
because
it's working in
economically,
China.
they did improve their, GDP dramatically,
Yeah.
right?
What about like North Korea though? Like when you're
But North Korea didn't enjoy like
they're not so hot
economic growth.
Well, the DPRK is harder to assess because A, we don't know what the citizens actually think, and B, they have a lot more sanctions on them than China or the Soviet Union ever did.
So the sanctions are hurting them more than anything.
Yeah.
And you think China should help North Korea more?
I think, yeah. I think like during the Deng Xiaoping era, I said one of my criticisms of that era is that they kind of threw North Korea to the curb, as did the Soviets a little bit too, towards the end of the Soviet era. I think both of them kind of like started to decouple from them in the 1980s, 1990s. And as a result, they were kind of on their own, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union. And so, they had, without any trade partners, it's hard to sustain yourself unless you have everything that you need within the economy of North Korea. Mm-hmm. And so that's why there was, I think there was also a 300-year freak storm, like freak hurricanes or storms or whatever that happened in North Korea after Kim Il-sung died. And so those years afterwards were very difficult for North Korea because they had to reorganize their economy to build like an agrarian kind of like economy, as well as kind of like everything that they need for the system.
Don't you think like South Korea stepped up, during the Kim Dae-jung administration, where the Sunshine Policy came in and they gave all that money to North Korea?
I would say that was very positive. I think I was very, I wasn't following it during the time, but from what I've read about the Sunshine Policy, I think it was going in a positive direction. But the problem obviously was 9/11. And the resulting Iraq War and Bush's comments about the axis of evil being North Korea, Iran, and Iraq, and that really killed any negotiations.
We're getting nuclear weapons again and developed it and said ha in your face.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're going to say that we're the axis of evil, we have to prepare, right? Like I think.
And do you think that before that,
I think they were
during the
prepared
Sunshine
before.
Policy, the money that they got, it wasn't spent on building up nuclear weapons? You think they were honestly using that money for good cause to help out their own?
See, like that also, right? Even right now, we just said the sanctions that are kind of really hurting the North Korean people. I understand, but they still seem to have money for weapons and development, and they're constantly shooting, these rockets that cost a lot of money, development wise. So I mean, it's kind of like hard
they have to have that, because if they don't have that, see what happens to Iraq, see what happens to Iran.
That's also a good point from that perspective. I do understand
Saddam
where that
Hussein
perspective
just being
is.
trotted out. Like when you're Kim Jong-il, you see that, you're like.
Yeah, I mean, I could also understand like as an enemy, I mean, when you're theoretically as an
if you're
enemy
talking
of
about
the
just
United
military,
States,
you're just kind of like, And I think one of the reasons that they had the nuclear program was to save money, because it's like throughout the history of North Korea, South Korea after the Korean War, they had to have a large force to protect the DMZ, right? And so they reasoned that if we have nuclear weapons, we don't have to have all that conventional stuff anymore. We just have the threat of nukes. And what that does, I think like now they've lowered the military service from 10 years to 6 years. And so that frees up a lot of labor so that people can work on the economy.
Let's change the subject a little bit. We want to talk about this actually. And I was waiting until this whole thing played out. Okay, the Korea Military Academy situation. Recently they said they will remove the bust of revered independence fighter Hong Bum-do from its grounds following a heated debate over the defense ministry's push for the relocation. And they kicked it out. I think the academy also wanted it to be removed, but Doug has a huge problem about it. Let's hear it out.
Well, I think they're replacing it with the Manchukuo military general, the guy who served for Japan during World War II in hunting down actual Korean rebels in Manchuria that were there fighting against them.
Is Japan getting rid of like the Yasukuni Shrine war criminals and stuff
Japan
too?
That's the other thing
that's
too.
Kind of my question.
Japan
on
is
that.
not doing anything. It's just South Korea making all these concessions to suck up to Japan, and they're both sucking. Why
do you think this is sucking up to Japan, removing the Hong Bum-do
Because Japan
bust?
don't like him. Japan considers them a war criminal, and they're complying with it.
But but the conservatives are saying this is a bust that Moon Jae-in put in.
Yeah.
So that's the angle on them. So why did they? And then the reason. Do you know why they want to remove him? Do you know why? Do you know why? Because he used to be a communist. That's
what
why.
does that matter?
And then
if he's
Korea,
a hero, he's
okay,
a hero. It shouldn't matter if he's a communist.
No, but
did he fight for the DPRK?
He did not.
Wait,
then he did not fight for the DPRK.
Wait, but this is
wasn't
before
part of the DPRK.
North and South Korea was
formed, so this is
right?
before. So even if he was a communist back then, what does it matter? What does that matter for his heroism during
the
that
military? Okay, so the military academy people, not me. The association's president has been saying, "Hey, we align with capitalist country. We're with America, and back then we can't have this kind of ideology melted up, in a bus like that." That's their,
bullshit.
That's what they are saying.
That's just bullshit.
And this is a huge debate right now.
That's what they're
I just want to know the fact.
They're protecting people like Park Chung-hee, who was another Imperial Japanese Army, like traitor in my mind. I
would disagree with you on that.
No, because he willingly volunteered. He wasn't like a forced enlistment into the Imperial Japanese Army.
Well.
He was just like, I want to be like a general. He was like a huge Napoleon stan. He wanted to be great. He said something like, "Oh, it's my bad luck that I was born a Korean." That's how much of a fucking cuck he was to Japan.
Oh,
I don't know. I didn't see it that way. I saw it more of a Moon Jae-in and Yoon Sung-yeol battling it out. That
I mean,
kind
it
of
could
force.
be that too.
That's
but
how, that's how I saw it. I don't
me,
think this was like sucking up to Japan.
Right, but for me, when I see these people, whoever it is, this bust or whatever, this is a traitor to Korea.
so you're seeing it as a perspective of saying that if you're gonna,
it doesn't matter about the politics for me. Okay. I'm talking about the actual people that's being presented and the current environment.
So the reasoning on the conservative side, Yoon Sung-yeol supporters are saying Moon Jae-in did that because Moon Jae-in has some kind of pro-communism, pro-North Korea agenda.
Isn't that well known?
And I think that's kind of well known because you know about the defector situation when they ran out away from North Korea, Moon Jae-in kicked him back. You know that, and he died. He died, man.
Them.
And that's against
to be against
United
the
Nations.
UN
resolution.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
so what do you think about that?
What do you think about that? In my mind.
And
it all goes back to the Korean War in my mind. You have to go to the roots of the Korean War and who was fighting on which side. A lot of the people who were fighting on the South Korean side were Japanese collaborators. This is a fact. You can look it up yourself. They were all the traitors and the collaborators on the South Korean side, and the North Korean side were all the resistance fighters in Manchuria.
Yeah, but I think when I talk with Doug, it all goes back. Then we can't. I told you we can't revert back.
But we are going back. We are going back to these exact busts, right? The history of these people. Why should it matter if this guy in the 1920s was a resistance fighter? Why does it matter that he has communist leanings if he was never affiliated with the DPRK? Why should that matter in terms of his and him being a hero for South Korea. Oh, just because we don't like that he used to be a communist,
No.
now he's not a hero.
But Doug, don't you agree? Okay,
Like now that the,
So
most
you're
a
like
lot of
a-
the righteous army
But we're
before
still kind of
communism,
but
that
we're
they
still in the middle of a war. Armistice, our kind of brother, quote unquote, enemy is also kind of right to the north, and it's communist. So we're still fighting a battle of communism versus democracy. So don't you think that that kind of matters? I'm just speaking for that,
No.
But at the same time, I do understand where you're coming from. This is before.
I just see it
You're
as-
saying a purist point of view. As a
No, but-
purist point of
right.
view, we were supposed to be aligned with the North, the
Yes.
communism regime, rather than the other side with Japan.
Yes.
But you can't equalize Japan with America. Why are you equalizing Japan with America?
Because-
Japan and America also fought against each other. It wasn't
right,
like,
but then right
it
after
wasn't like a war against
1945,
between communism
right
and
after 1945, MacArthur was basically the supreme commander of Japan for 9 years. He basically cucked Japan to be under his rule.
Yes.
So after that, after 1945, Japan essentially handed the baton to
United States.
Yes. For their protection. For the protection against all their war crimes against all of Southeast Asia.
See, that's
because
messed up.
Unit 731.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Nothing happened to any of those Japanese
No, you're right.
doctors.
And
or
you're
whatever.
absolutely right.
Who protected them?
America.
America.
US.
Yeah.
It was just like the Nazis with
Yeah.
Operation Paperclip.
Exactly, and they
It's the
got the
same
data.
thing.
It was the
Japan
data.
submitted
same
to
thing.
America for their protection, for their war crimes.
right. Forget America.
It is the same thing. But let's go back to the 1945 since you mentioned it. What happened? Hiroshima, Nagasaki, right?
Yeah.
And then if that did not happen, who is South Korea under control of? If America didn't intervene,
No, America didn't.
Who is Korea? Who is?
Japan was already defeated by the time Hiroshima and Nagasaki
Nah,
happened.
man.
They
They
were
did not
defeated.
give up.
They-
Did you watch Oppenheimer?
Yes.
You wanted to talk about
Oh
Oppenheimer.
yeah,
You wanted to talk
the
about
funny thing is,
Oppenheimer.
you remember how in the 15th? So they released Oppenheimer in South Korea on Independence Day.
Yeah, I know. And Japan didn't open it yet, right?
Yeah, it was a smash success in China, and so they released in China too. So it's doing really well.
Yeah,
in both.
that's why $800 million now, right?
Yeah,
The box
yeah.
office. But anyway, yeah,
850
and
million.
it shows, man, that Japan was gonna fight
No,
till the end.
Yeah, but it also shows
They-
Oppenheimer meeting Einstein, and that never happened apparently.
the
That never
American kind of like motivation. They knew where they knew where the leadership was in Tokyo. They could have decapitated their leadership if they wanted to.
Without the nukes, you're saying?
Yes.
A lot of casualties on the American side. That's what the government and the military experts have been saying.
But then
I
also what influenced their surrender was the Soviet entering the Manchurian area and invading there, and then they surrendered.
You know when Oppenheimer said, "I regret not bombing the Nazis with the nukes," that is true. He really did say that. But they gave up. They surrendered. Japan did not surrender even after the first bomb. They didn't. Even after the second, they surrendered after the second.
That was a 3-day gap.
You think we should have? I mean, America should have.
We
given
should have
them
waited
a
a little bit longer than 3 days.
Okay, all right,
like
now.
boom. All right, boom.
Hey, they're still moving. It's like, yeah.
So
But you have a point
what I'm
there.
trying to say is, I think after the nukes, the world got in a panic. They were the whole entire world was scared, fearful of United States.
Well, sure, that was
Get
the
along
point.
with that.
That was the point.
Yeah, and
They wanted to flex.
You can't hold the entire Korean people hostage just because they went along with, I don't know. You do consider that American imperialism? You do,
Yes.
right? You do, right? But
They
anyway,
installed Sugmun Rhee. Sugmun Rhee wasn't in Korea for like 40 years before that.
What I'm saying is Korea didn't have a choice. We were pretty much occupied from Japan, and then America. Like in your perspective, is in
No,
America.
but all of those, all the officers, all the people who led South Korea were the Japanese collaborators. Why did we go along with that?
But so are you now even being against Korea? Having their 광복절? Are you even against that? Their independence? It sounds like you're against that.
I
too.
think they don't have their independence. I think they are controlled. They're still controlled by. I think Korea is still occupied by American imperialism.
So. Okay, the country that followed with the communist ideology, like North Korea.
Yeah.
Do you think they're doing good? Do you think they're doing great? Because I mean, I'm talking about
again. This is materially. We talked about this on the last time.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if you're measuring it like now, yes, of course. But then like, how are you measuring history by what happening is now versus like, okay, so what if I said in the 60s, North Korea was doing the same thing. You can't really like.
Yeah, my question is, has history been corrected? Has it ever been corrected? Has every wronged country corrected their fate?
I believe that North
Did
Korea
that ever happen?
will be vindicated within the century.
I don't think that would happen. It's not.
They will be.
Think
Do you consider yourself a Christian? Though you're not, right? You're not anymore, right?
I have Christian
I don't think
leanings,
he is.
but a spiritualist, intellectual spiritualist with Christian
So I
leanings.
believe.
Let's pray.
Let's bow our heads.
Let's pray for Doug. Okay,
So
come here.
I believe.
Come here, Doug. Stop it! Stop mocking it.
I believe the world is imperfect, very flawed. Sometimes evil wins. Probably in your perspective, evil won on that one,
Sure,
right?
yes. Evil definitely
So
won.
that's why, many people don't expect that much in this world. Do you expect everything to be corrected?
No,
We
I just
can't
want to
even
make
correct
my money
what's going
and
on in
live
American
a capitalist
politics.
life.
You know about the Trump-Russia collusion all being fabricated and all that?
Sure,
but,
yeah.
But nothing happens about it. They all got scot-free. Not guilty, unanimous.
But then you're
in
angry
DC
about it,
and
right?
Virginia, I'm angry about it.
Exactly. So why can't I be angry about
No,
North
you
Korea?
can, you
Why
can.
can't I be angry
So
about South
I don't
Korea?
think Trump-Russia collusion is the same as South Korea, North
It's
Korea
the same
situation.
thing.
I do not.
Who launched those
so
nukes?
are you-
Truman?
so-
who created the CIA? Truman. Who started the Korean War and
Hey,
threatened nukes?
What
Truman.
do you think about 9/11?
What about it?
Do you think it was an implosion? or
Okay,
do
it wasn't Truman who started Manhattan Project. It was not.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
that's
not
that's
him.
even worse.
It wasn't him.
Because FDR, I don't think FDR
was
would have used
Roosevelt.
nukes on Japan. I honestly don't.
He was
I
planning
honestly-
to, man.
No, he was planning it for the Nazis.
For the Nazis, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But like after that,
So you guys would have been okay if they did it on the Nazis, right?
Didn't Oppenheimer kind of suffer post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, after the movie kind of shows
Dude,
that
I
he
think I
had a
would.
guilt.
Yeah.
He even said,
Tens of thousands of
He
people.
even said in front of Truman he has bloods on his hands. And then Truman got so offended by his comments, he told his deputies, do not ever send this MFer back to White House.
Yeah, but,
you remember
but
that?
I don't know how much of that's true. That kind
That
of
is true. That one's true.
Just
That
Einstein
part is
one's
true.
like
No,
fake.
that
oh,
part,
you saw the movie, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It was just too much dialogue and not enough action. So I saw
Look,
Barbie.
did you enjoy the
instead.
movie?
On a moral level, I don't care about the nukes. I'm ambivalent. I think
You don't care about it.
But you believe that Japan needs to pay.
Other than the 30,000 or so Korean slaves in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I'm like,
Okay, you have a point. There were a lot of Koreans
Y'all-
that perished too.
Yeah, that's true.
y'all annexed and tried to genocide Koreans for 35 years.
Okay, that's
and
true,
you didn't
too.
know your citizens didn't know that was happening. Your citizens didn't know what was going in Nanjing. Your citizens didn't know what was going on with your military trying to like kill everyone. That you are not innocent.
So
No, I don't think the citizens were with
No,
that
but-
though. With
For
the raping
35
and-
years, they knew what was going on with Korea. Okay, don't give me that
No,
they were all innocent people.
so
there.
would you
'Cause,
like-
when like
okay,
you
okay.
said, if
We-
they
No,
nuked the Nazis, nobody would be saying.
There's news like in Japan too. I'm sure there was like a right-based or a left-based news that was trying to report
So I wanted
it
to
as
really,
well.
I wanted to really talk about the most important thing, the Obama Sinclair situation, the gays.
Yeah, what
But
do you
now we
think?
don't have a lot of time
well,
to
what do you
talk
think
about
of
that. What do you
Obama
think about
and
that?
Sinclair?
That fellatio? Is that what it
Yeah.
is?
I think that it is just, I don't know. I mean, I saw the interview. I think that there was that the other report like a couple weeks ago or a month ago that said he said to a girl that he liked gay men or something like that.
He
right?
said to his then
Yeah.
girlfriend,
So-
I don't know when he was going to Harvard. I don't know whatever.
It wouldn't be
that he fantasized about having sex
right.
with guys.
It wouldn't be surprising if it was true. What is surprising in that Tucker Carlson thing is that he implied that he killed people to hide that secret.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, there was a cook or a chef that,
And
that
I
died
did see
here.
that.
And even
exactly. And I did see
a
that
chef who died recently, right?
He has ties to the CIA. I mean, I hate to go
You're
back
talking
to
about Obama, right? Yeah.
Right. And while he was in the office, he created something called the disposition matrix, which allows the CIA and NSA to have a kill list of anyone in the world. even U.S. citizens.
Hey, maybe we should stop talking about this. Douglas, thank you so much for being here with us because I am scared for my life now.
Who are you? This is we were getting into really interesting things.
I know,
now,
but
you know,
you really want to get
You gotta
into
have
it?
me on more often.
All right, we're gonna do that one next time when Doug comes back. Get to the real interesting part of it.
All right, okay. Please come back, okay?
Thank you, Doug. It's
will.
always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
My favorite communist.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, you're right.
Probably the only communist.
Hey, how about we make our episode title "My Favorite
My
Communist"?
favorite communist. See you guys later. Bye bye.